think that it's any surprise or controversial statement to say that Warzone as we know it right now with Warzone 2 isn't quite where either you or I, and certainly not where Activision had hoped it would be right now. From rumors and reports to the player counts being well below expectations, to that being backed up potentially by the fact that there are so many fundamental game-changing adjustments being made to the game upcoming with Season 2, that's the current rumor and reports. Well, recently it seems like Activision proposed a potentially nuclear option to try and draw people back, but only in a hypothetical sense for now. So what's this nuclear option that was proposed? Will it happen at any point? We're diving into all of that here in a little more. So as we go along, drop your thoughts down below. Would you guys like to see this proposed addition or reintroduction into Warzone happen? Is there anything in particular you guys would like to stick around from the experience we have right now? Whatever the case, let me know below. And finally, check out my friends at G Fuel. Code Espresso gets you 20 to 30% off your entire order with some great flavors like Hype Sauce, Strawberry Banana, and the Morbius Nectarine flavor available. Link in the description below if you're interested. But for now, let's jump into it. So today's discussion comes from a new Activision survey sent out to players randomly, first reported on by Charlie Intel, stating Activision is sending out a new survey asking people what they think the next Warzone map should be, and it includes remasters of old Warzone maps as options. Does not confirm any potential returns at this point. The associated image attached with that was a listing for an all-new map, the return of Verdansk 84, the return of Caldera, the return of the original Verdansk, and the return of the Blackout map from Black Ops 4. Now, for context, these sorts of things are relatively common. Activision sends out surveys every quarter, 2 or 3 in a year, to gauge player feedback, and they're usually covering a plethora of different topics in the gaming experience. We've seen this happen plenty of times in the last couple of years with various different questions, asking you like your things of your top modes you play, features that you care about like the minimap, perks, and so on and so forth. What would be important upgrades to the game, server tick rates, experiences in-game, what would get you to play the games more, like new in-game events, modes, maps, challenges, if weapon balancing was sorted out, spawn logic, and so on and so forth. So there's a million different things that have been hit on across the past couple of years in these anonymous surveys, and they're really just used to gauge player sentiment for what is going on in the scene right now. Ironically though, almost 2 years ago on March 1st, 2021, COD Mobile put out a specific survey asking about BR maps for mobile and what players would like to see, where they directly asked between Verdansk and Eclipse, if you'd like to see either of those maps return, Eclipse being the actual name for the Blackout map. Not many people may know that, but two of the same options that we just saw with this new one. So there's so much that has gone into these in the past that it's really impossible to get a sort of thorough look at all of them without just droning on, but you get the point. These sort of things are relatively standard questions that are asked from an analytical and data-driven perspective. Now, the reason these are asked, again, is to just gauge that player sentiment and garner some feedback that is meant to be truly unbiased in the sample set that it goes out to. You could go and run a Twitter poll all you want, but that doesn't mean that millions of players who do not care to follow a game's Twitter account wouldn't then have their input entirely neglected. Honestly, I'd say that these surveys sent to emails are one of the more direct ways to reach the casual player just in their inbox. Everyone's got an email. It could be something that goes to a purely casual player or somebody like this that is connected enough to know like, hey, we should send this in to Charlie Intel. So you get all ranges of the spectrum there. Most of the time with these surveys, nothing comes of it. It's just to gauge feedback and see where player feeling is rather than just the trackable data on the game side of things. But sometimes, like that COD Mobile survey 2 years ago, sometimes there is a result that may or may not be a coincidence, but it's not fair to write it off completely because Warzone Mobile is on Verdansk, something that was name dropped 2 years ago by that survey from COD Mobile. Now, to add to this sort of vague possibility of that, I had heard when this was in development before they revealed it, that it was almost the last second change where Al Mazrah wasn't working in either performance, data load, whatever the case may be, but they couldn't get it to work with mobile, so they just ended up putting in Verdansk again, which would make that correlation more of a gray area, but I mean, it's possible. So what are the odds this actually happen? Now, why I think this could happen, and emphasis on could, is firstly, I don't think this would happen anytime the next couple of months here. I think this is a more longer term thing here. We've already seen that blueprint of what I personally think will be that next Warzone map of Las Almas. We've already touched on that here on the channel, but humoring the idea a little bit. As we mentioned, it's been reported that player counts are down. I've heard some numbers, which I'm not at liberty to discuss, so it's more of like a dude trust me type thing. You don't have to, I don't care. I'm not trying to prove anything to anybody. It's more so just to give context to the idea here of this, but with numbers being reportedly well below expectation, going nuclear and all out on something familiar wouldn't necessarily be the worst idea. If people are truly nostalgic for Verdansk, if they're truly nostalgic for the Blackout map, that is something that they could reintroduce here to hopefully bring back some players. That's kind of what we see now with the Warzone 2 experience, going back and changing so much of the fundamentals of the game to maybe not make it directly Warzone 1, but making it closer than what we have right now. Now, whether or not that's long-term long-term and sustainable, I personally don't know that I would believe that. I do think that it's kind of just nostalgia bait at that point. I feel like you'd end up getting that initial peak of players coming back and being like, yes, Verdansk is back. Yes, Blackout is back in that sense. But I don't know that that would necessarily keep players around. I still think that as important as it is to have those fan favorite maps, you still need to push forward and create new, original, and iconic maps for the future, not just relying on stuff that has been there, again, in the nostalgia reaches of somebody's brain. So for that reason, it begs the question of, would this be for the better? If we're purely looking at it in that sense, where we end up seeing that like Verdansk or the Blackout map would replace Al Mazrah and we just have one singular Warzone map, I don't think so. I think that players would get bored. I know that that might seem like initially something that's kind of crazy to consider, but I mean, we've talked about it on the channel before. Regular Verdansk, Verdansk 84, they still had plenty of problems in their own right, but we look back on them with some rose-tinted glasses. But what I do think would be really cool and would be for the better in terms of the overall gameplay experience is that if you took these sort of quality of life adjustments that we saw with the end of Warzone 1, what we're seeing now come back into Warzone 2, if you did that, but then added each of these maps in on a rotation so that we don't only have one individual map, I think that could do really well for the Warzone 2 experience. And of course, that's all hypothetical. I don't think that we'd ever actually have an answer until that actually happened, which again is a very long shot, but who knows? Maybe it does. But anytime these surveys come up, it's always interesting to see because there is that what if factor. While it's very unlikely that I think that this will happen, it is interesting that it was thrown in, and I wouldn't be opposed to seeing these come back in some capacity. Again, maybe not necessarily being the only map or maps we end up seeing within Warzone 2 and the future here going forward, but if we could see something like a rotation, I think that'd be pretty cool. But for now, that's where we're gonna leave it. Just want to let you guys know about this new report here that is going around, that if you see it, don't necessarily buy in immediately to the, oh my god, Verdansk is coming back, or oh my god, the Blackout map is coming back. The odds of that actually happening is still pretty slim. Absolutely, I'd love to be proven wrong again if they can throw it into a sort of map rotation and not necessarily just take out the maps that we have right now, but it is something that they're gauging player feedback to see, okay, what kind of things could we do here to improve the player experience, or in their case, make sure that players are staying on the game and not dropping off. So perhaps it is available further in the future, but for right now, just know that they're kind of just putting the idea out there, seeing how many people will bite. But for now, that's what we're gonna call it. Love to get your thoughts and feedback down there in the comment section down below. Would you guys like to see Verdansk return? Would you like to see the Blackout map return? Whatever the case, let me know your thoughts down below. But if you enjoyed the video, found it at all insightful, do me a favor and drop a like on it. And if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss a single thing, getting all things Modern Warfare 2, Warzone 2, and anything COD related. But for now, thanks so much for watching. My name is Espresso. I'll see you guys later. Take care and peace.